Yeah, welcome all. Welcome, Jeremy,
James.
Roger, Judy, yes, Penny,
Hello.
Simon, hello. Judy, hello, welcome, Keith. I think we're seeing you for the first time, are we, Judy? You're muted.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
I only registered a couple of days ago because I only found out about the course this week. And, so I know I've missed a lot, but I thought I would drop in and see how it goes and find out more about how I can start. I'm a complete, beginner with Pali. Well, I'm not a complete beginner with Pali because I've been a meditation practitioner for about 35 years.
Okay.
So I'm familiar with the chanting and some of the teachings and some of the suttas, but language-wise, I feel very much a novice.
Okay, right. Well, very welcome. What we're doing these ones, we are kind of plunged straight into the middle of real live text. In fact, we're just kicking off now with verse 10 of the Karaniya Metta Sutta. If it helps, I mean, if you wish, I can certainly add you, Judy, to the mailing list where kind of updated material comes out, including the study resources guide that has links to, welcome Mariano, that has links to everything. So if you just want to email me with your email address.
Okay.
Do you have my email address?
Yeah, can I just check that I've got it right? I've copied it down from the website. So jameswhelan67@gmail.com.
James P. Don't forget the P.
Okay, thank you. All one word, yeah.
All one word. So James P. Whelan 67 at gmail.com, and then I'll add you to the mailing list.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
And welcome back, Charlene, Christine, and Judith. Hello. So, Judy, you're familiar with the chanting, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
yeah.
Wonderful. Are you familiar with the Metta Sutta?
Can you?
Karaniya Matta Kusalena Yantam Santam Padam Abhisamecha, that one.
I have done it. Yes, it's in the chanting book. I'm from Chithurst. Yes, so I have.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. Very good.
Yeah, but I'm not very au fait with it. No.
Yeah. Welcome, Sri Animala.
Sorry, sir. I had an internet problem, so I had to log into another iPad. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say again, Sri Animala.
I have internet problem and I log into iPad now.
Okay. Right. Very good.
Yeah. Sorry, that's why I got delayed.
So last time we were looking at the Karaniya Metta Sutta. Let me just call it up now onto shared screen. So we have to go through the little rigmarole of shared screen. Karaniya Metta Sutta. Share. Brum. Dum share. Okay, do we have shared screen now with the iPad? Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Before we plunge into verse 10, which we were about to do, I just want to look again at a very interesting point that I discovered only 2 nights ago, that I was told about only 2 nights ago, in verse 7. Mata yatha niyam puttang ayusa eka puttamanurakkhe. And hang on, just somebody else waiting to get in. Yeah, welcome, Orca. I think like most other translators and interpreters and commentators on this verse, I've just been understanding this ayusa, ayus in Sanskrit meaning life, and just as a mother might protect her child with her life, so prepared to lay down your life to protect somebody else. And only 2 evenings ago, a friend of mine, who's a member of my Manchester Sangha, got in touch with me from Thailand to inform me that she'd just been speaking to a very learned and academic Thai monk who gave a different interpretation of ayusa. So ayu, so just remember ayusa, we can with one's life. Let me just now. Okay, you should all see the iPad now. Can you see the iPad?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I've asked so often because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So we've got this wonderful word, ayu. That's right, in the Sanskrit form, ayus, and in Pali we're just written ayu, but it makes an instrumental in ayusa. In Sanskrit it is ayusha. Regard that as the same. So instrumental with one's life. Now this alternative explanation, actually, which I found very interesting, is it's not with one's life in the sense that one might lay down one's life. It's for the whole duration of one's life, right up until the moment that you die. Yes, Mariano? Oh, what spanner are you going to? Very entertaining.
I was just trying to say, why not both of them? You know, your mother will protect you with her life even when you are 85.
When I reach the age of 85, my mother will have been dead for well over 20 years. But anyway, but yeah, I mean, it could be. You're right. It's like so many of these things. It could be both. But 2 points arise out of this. Is that generally speaking, we all know the word jiva and jivita, jiva, alive, jivita. Jivita is more like being alive as opposed to being dead. Ayu tends to mean more length of life. We have, for example, Ayurveda. We all know about Ayurveda. You know, the traditional Hindu medicine, which literally translates as life knowledge, life science. So Ayu tends to mean not length of life, but also length of healthy life. There's the tendency to emphasize duration rather than the fact of being alive rather than dead. In saying all of this, I recognize Mariana's good point that you can hold both in your mind at the same time. And the instrumentally, what is the instrumental? It's the instrumental of time. In other words, the time it takes to do something or how long you spend doing something. If you say, I can do this job in 3 days, it would say in English in 3 days. In Sanskrit and Pali, you'd use the instrumental in the sense of take 3 days to do it, use 3 days to do it. So here, spends her entire life protecting her child. And if you look at the etymology, I looked at the etymology and it dawned on me, it's quite fun. I hadn't realized that you have this ayus, the ay, the old Indo-European root ayus. It's cognate with the Greek aeon. Yes, you see. It's cognate with the Latin aevus. As in we get medieval, longevity, the AEV or EV there is that same root, longevity, having long length of life. By phonetic mutation, it also becomes the word age. And of course we have the
avo in Italian is the same, I suppose, meaning ancestor. Avo.
sorry, avo. What does
It is
avo
not
mean?
that used, but especially in crosswords, they use it avo avi to say ancestors.
Ah, okay. It was as an atavus, which is the Latin for grandfather, isn't it? So there we are. So incidentally, those of you who know German, it also comes through the Germanic stem as ewig. And goodness me, there's the Old English "forai," meaning forever.
And James, ewig is eternal, isn't it? The German word.
Sorry, ewig in German means eternal. Correct. Yeah. So Simon, Simon? Please come in.
Yeah, just to point out, in the version I've got, I know the gaps between words may not mean very much, but it's putamayusa, so putam going with the age bit, and I'm just wondering whether it could mean for something we discussed before Christmas, the idea that for the child's entire life, the mother, it's not the mother's life for as long as she lives, but for as long as the child exists, the mother is still exercising this care. So it's the child's ayus rather than the mother's ayus.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there.
In particular, given that some people see these as overlapping, that you have to get do you remember when we did the stuff to do with the Visuddhimagga interpretation? You have to get the metta first, and then you go on to the karuna and so on.
Yeah.
The foundation is the child's entire life, the entire existence of the child. Thereafter, it's the sick child. Thereafter, it's the young man who's doing well.
Oh, of course, yes, yeah. Yeah, yeah, so maybe all of these things together. And in fact, we say in the English weddings, so long as we both shall live. Yeah. Yes. Yes, so there we are. We've expanded our interpretation, hopefully, of that word. And also bear in mind that when you're talking about being prepared to lay down your life for somebody, greater love hath no man than he who'd lay down his life for a friend. The word that we tend to use there is jivita rather than ayu. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the warriors approaching are tyakta jivita, literally having abandoned their lives. They're still alive, but the idea is that they're going to battle ready to die, not bothering if they die. They go in mentally having already sacrificed their lives. So, tyakta jivita there. And if you deprive somebody of life and killing him, the word used is jivita rather than ayu. So this so that tends to just give support to the idea that this one refers to a length of life. And that point that you've just raised, Simon, about the passage we did from the Visuddhimagga, further strengthened it. The mother will have a certain protective attitude towards the child through all stages of the child's life. So there we are. I thought I'd better get that bit in, since I hadn't spotted this point. I hadn't been told about this point by the time when we did verse 7 a few weeks ago. So let me now call up where we are. Oops. So we now go on to Dittincha anupagama silavadastanena sampanno game suvinayage dhan nahi jatu gabhasayang punareti. Now, bear in mind that the ti at the end here normally it appears as unquote, end of a quotation, either directly spoken quotation or mental activity. You very often see it used at the end of a sutta, at the end of a recited poem. It's almost like a sign. This is the end of the recitation. And remember also that a vowel, the vowel immediately before T, if it's not already long, it just becomes long by virtue of the following T, because this word etiti, in fact, I'm going to change it here to short. It is just eti, meaning goes. So, ditti, meaning a view, and dasana are from the same root. I'll just go through it briefly with you. It's from the Vedic root drish, and you can make a verbal noun by adding t. This has nothing to do with the t, the getcha and so on. This is just t. Making a verbal noun out of it. You do it by just adding it directly to the root. So drish, that makes it drishti. By the way, by regular internal sandhi, wherever you get a sh followed by a t, they both become retroflex. That's why standard internal sandhi. That's why you get it in Sanskrit drishti, both retroflex, and by standard phonetic mutation, that's the one that becomes ditti in Pali. Another way of forming the verbal noun is by the addition of ana to a word, ana or ana. Here we have ana, so we have guna avris, so the drish becomes darshana. They're both words basically meaning seeing, but their meanings have become specialized. And so drishti, darshana, ditti, and darshana, Sanskrit, of course, dasana, Pali. Ditti, the specialized meaning, has come to mean an opinion or a view. And dasana is a more general word meaning seeing. But it also then, by further extension, in fact, I thank you, Mariano, publicly for sending an entertaining article on I'm partway through it now, the extensions of meaning, what they call the rudhi, meaning the growth, the outgrowths of meaning from the root. So by what they call in Sanskrit rudhi, by the growth from the basic meaning of the root drish, comes drishti, seeing, opinion, view, darshana, seeing, and then by extension, vision. As we talk about in English, we can talk about a person of vision, meaning wisdom. And in fact, even in modern Hindi, the word for philosophy generally is darshan, or they might pronounce it in Hindi, darshan, literally seeing, vision. So here, in this verse, we have vitincha anupagamma, not standing on your views, taking a stand on, that's mine, I'm defending this territory, I'm defending this view. So anupagamma is from the root gum, to go. Upagam, to go up to, mean also, as we can say in the English expression, you take a stand on something. Simon, please.
Could you explain why the ditti is normally views, but there it appears to be in the singular, so like going to a view rather than what it would be in, I don't know, dittio or whatever, the feminine.
Yeah. It would muck up the meter if he did that, so he kind of slipped it into the singular. I think it's probably the general idea of having a view, being a viewy kind of person. My opinion, yeah, I hadn't actually spotted that point. I think you have to interpret it in a generic sense, not being the kind of person who kind of clings to your view, whatever that view may be.
We've seen that before in the when we did something from Johansson, where there it's the nun who is tormented by Mara, and it's dittigata, gone to views.
Oh yeah, you're stuck with your views. There it would be normal to have the singular anyway, because it's in compound. So I don't think we ought to read too much into the welcome, Usha. I don't think we ought to read too much into the fact that it's a singular here. I think it probably has, as I said, the more generic sense of being an opinionated kind of person. And for example, we in the Noble Eightfold Path we have sammaditthi, the one that's commonly translated as right view. Again, that's a slightly different. That's a right way of seeing things. I think there, not a single opinion that's correct, but a right way of viewing. Some sammaditthi. It's just dawned on me. I think that sammaditthi should have been better as sammadasana. However, I don't think it's quite my function to try to rewrite the Pali in which the Noble Eightfold Path is expressed. So anyway, there's an overlap between ditti and dasana. So dittincha anupagamma. Upa gacchati, literally to go up, and therefore to take a stand on something. This is the absolutive upagamma, having gone up in a state in which you have gone up. Upagamya in Sanskrit, so upagamma in Pali, and you can negate an absolutive with the a or an prefix. So anupagamma, not taking a stand on opinion, not being opinionated, defending your opinions. Oops. Silava. This is from Sila, Sanskrit Shila. And this is the suffix, the vant suffix, which in the nominative singular, masculine nominative singular becomes va, silava, as in bhagava, silava, virtuous of good conduct. The word sampanna, have I done a note on it? No, I haven't. Sampanna, broadly speaking, we can translate that as endowed with something, possessing something. It's from our root pad, meaning to go. The same root from which we get our English word foot, and the Latin pes, pedis, il pede in Italian. As a verb, it means obviously to go, because the feet are what you primarily use for going. So sampanno, this is the upasarga, the verbal prefix sam, which means like a completed act or a success. You have successfully got it. You're sampanna, endowed with it. Simon.
Which is the noun and which is the adjective here? Because it seems that you can read this either as the noun silawa, so we're talking about the virtuous one who is perfected by means of vision. So it's the perfection that is the adjective. or it could be sampanno, so the accomplished one, the perfected one, who happens to be virtuous by virtue of that adjective, silawa.
Can you just, sorry, I'm not sure that I've absolutely got what you were saying. Silava, okay,
Yeah.
is just an ordinary adjective, and like most adjectives, can be used as a noun.
I mean, it very much difference to practice, but just in grammatical terms, would that normally be we're talking about the person is silava, so we're talking about the virtuous one.
Yes, yeah.
And the adjective who happens to be perfected by means of vision, who is also sampanno dasanena, or is it the other way round?
Ah, okay. That's an interesting point of view. You could, okay, so taking silava should be kind of non-controversial. Simply the means having sila, having what everything that's involved in the word sila, moral conduct and so on. Dasanena sampanno. Are you saying that then that could mean perfected by means of dasana, by means of vision?
Is the person we're talking about, is the person the silawa, which can be used as a noun, the virtuous one, or panno, a perfected one, who is in effect perfected by means of vision? Whether the sampanno or the silawa is the noun and which is the adjective.
Okay.
Which comes first, so to speak?
I regard them as two separate adjectives, both qualifying the person that we're talking about, and it's the subject of this sentence and the subject of these the subject of the verb eti, he goes or she goes, is not specified. It's simply the person, whoever listens to this advice. This advice is directed to everyone, so we could say one does it, right? Now it's these that I regard these as two adjectives, silava and oops. So what have I done here? Oh, silava adjective, dasanena sampanno. Sampanno, another adjective, means endowed. Endowed with what? Endowed with dasana. Were you suggesting that sampanna could mean perfected?
Yeah, in particular, I mean, it's more the other way around, that the Amaravati translation is something like the pure-hearted one having clarity of vision. So the silava is the person that they're referring to, whereas you, the implicit pronoun in the second line, it's he. He will certainly.
Yeah. I don't think I'm in conflict with what the Amaravati text says, because what is so funny, Mariano? You think I chickened out of being in conflict with what they said, Amaravati. If I think I'm right and they're wrong, I will stand up and say so. But seriously, I don't think there is any conflict. The pure-hearted ones, silava. Okay, sila is quite a broad word. In fact, in Vedic times, shila just meant one's characteristic conduct. I'll just have a moment on this shila. And not necessarily virtuous. The papa, meaning sin or evil, you could be papa shila. In other words, your shila is characterized by papa. So the word of itself does not indicate anything good. It just means what your characteristic conduct is. When I first saw the word papa shila, I thought it was like a contrast between two opposites. Then it dawned on me it wasn't. It means your characteristic mode of action is papa. Then by extension, used on its own, it came to mean the virtuous conduct. So in Sanskrit, by the way, it's regularly used with both meanings. If you have a particular noun or character is followed by the word shila, it means your characteristic way of acting is shila. It is such like papa shila, punya shila, dan. You can be dana shila, prone to giving, having a generous nature. I have to confess in now saying this, I'm not absolutely sure I fully grasp where Simon is, but hopefully it will become clear as we go along. The silava is just, this is talking about an undefined subject. It's just the bloke in karaniyam atta kusalena. If you look right back to verse 1, atta kusalena, one who is skilled either in the goal, skilled in his way of going. And that karaniyam, to be done, the effect of that karaniyam extends right throughout the entire sutta. All of these things are advice and instruction to one who is karaniyam atta kusalena, one who is skilled or presumably also desiring to become kusala, desiring to become skilled in the atta. So here we are. The last things, vitincha and upagamma, that's the absolutive. This is an absolutive verb, but it has the subject. The subject is this undefined anybody. And silava, let's say virtuous. What was it? Pure-hearted was the Amaravati one, Simon?
Yeah, it's more whether that is used as an adjective or as a noun, because I mean, presumably silava could refer to a person who is ethical. I mean, if we take it.
Yeah. Okay, Simon, I think that you are possibly falling into a false distinction here. It's the same as in Latin, and to a very large extent, the same as in the modern Romance languages. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mariana, but in Italian as well. We don't have this sharp distinction between nouns and adjectives. And there are lots of things that are very distinctly nouns. And there is another class of words that are described as adjectives, but in Latin and in Italian, most adjectives can be used as nouns. And in grande is just a noun meaning an adjective meaning big. But in Italian, can you talk about il grande, the big fellow?
Il cieco, yeah.
Il cieco, the blind, the blind fellow. In other words, but you're using an adjective as a noun.
Yeah.
Questo grande, that big fellow, this big fellow. So so silava is primarily an adjective. It's an adjective with the suffix vant, nominative, masculine nominative singular va. Primarily an adjective, but like virtually any adjective can be used as a noun. For example, bhagava, bhagavantam, that is primarily an adjective, but it is used as bhagava, the blessed one. And dasanena sampanno, it has been described as perfected by vision, but no, and as best I recall, whenever you see the word sampanna with a noun in the instrumental describing a certain kind of quality or characteristic, as far as I recall, I've only ever seen that used in the sense of endowed with, possessed of. So to what extent does that answer your question or leave it unanswered, Simon?
I think it about 50-50.
Let's just try and do the incomplete 50.
I suppose that the gist of it is whether the subject of this last two lines is implied, or whether the subject is a noun derived from either of those two adjectives. And as such, if it is, which one would it be?
Okay, I think from the purely linguistic point of view, it could be either. And I think you can hold both equally. I'm just trying to hold it in my mind now. So let's treat Silava and Dastanena Sampano as if they were the subjects of the sentence. So the Silava person, the virtuous person, the person who is Dastanena Sampano, that person who has then the subject of the sentence, Nahijatu Gabasayam Punaretiti, does not go again into the resting place of a womb. That is a perfectly valid interpretation, and it's one of these cases. I hadn't spotted it before, so thanks now for raising it after I rather obtusely failed to grasp it 2 or 3 times. I now think I've got it, Simon. That it linguistically it can be taken as either. So the person has all these qualities, does not, and all of the qualities described right throughout the Metta Sutta, including these Silava and Dasanena Sampano, these 2 qualities describing somebody already the implicit subject of almost the entire sutta, or that is one valid interpretation. Another valid interpretation is that this could be, verse 10 could be a separate sentence standing on its own, of which the subject is Silava Dasanena Sampano. I now think I see clearly. We've got the remaining 50. It could linguistically it could equally be either. And the reason it could be either is because grammatically and syntactically, I should say, the noun, the adjective can function as a noun, and also we don't have the article, definite or indefinite article. If it had the alternative interpretation, the person who is Silava is one who does not come back into a room, we'd then be finding ourselves with a definite article here, meaning that is the subject of the sentence, and that would be the same in English and the Romance languages, for example. But without it, it leaves that the question is left open. And I would suspect that the native speakers might have just seen it in both ways without even realizing that they were seeing it in both ways. The distinction, that sharp syntactical distinction that you have brought up, may not have presented itself to their minds. How many percentage points have I reached now, Simon, in my explanation?
I think at least 101, because
okay, I'm glad about that.
managed to correct my force of habit, Amaravati to Amaravati, which is an extra bonus point. So thank you.
Okay, right. So, sampanna then just means, I say, endowed with, possessed of, having acquired. And by the way, sampatti, the verbal noun from that is just means an acquisition, and therefore one's wealth, one's assets. In fact, I remember boarding a train in Delhi many years ago, back in 1967, and there was a sign up in Hindi saying that the railway and the railway carriages are the sampatti of our nation. Please respect and keep them in good order. So kamesu vidaya gedham. Gedha. This Gedha, let's just turn up iPad. Gedha, it's from the root grid, know what grid means. It's one of those words that's very delightfully arrived in English with very, very little change. Because grid in Vedic root grid is our English word greed. And it's one of those words, very numerous, where you can make an adjective by adding a ra, so gridra. Actually, the word so gridra means greedy. As a noun, actually, it means generally greedy, but as a noun, it's specifically applied to vultures. They call the gridra, the greedy birds, the vultures.
Yeah, it is in the Heart Sutra, isn't it? The Gridrakut Parvata.
Oh, that vulture peak. Yes, of course. Yes, Marin, Gridrakuta, the vulture peak. So the original is the greedy birds. Which I think is very unfair on those birds. All they do is eat things that have been left behind that nobody else wants. I think they're doing quite a service, really. They've got a bad press, but I'm going to stand up for the vultures. So in Pali, then gridha, so gridha as a noun in Sanskrit then becomes gedha in Pali. So Vinaya is a slight clip. I've done a note on it. It's a yeah. Normally it would be normally this is the absolutive for having put to. I've done a note on it. Normally it would be regularly formed absolutive vinaya, having put away, but there are a couple of ones that it becomes an aya in Pali. It's just a slight anomaly of Pali. So vinaya would be the regularly formed absolutive, having put away, literally led away. So you can say vinaya or vinaya, but here it's just vinaya. So having put aside gedam, greed. Now, if you talk in Sanskrit and Pali, when you talk about a desire for something, a greed for something, the thing that you're greedy for, desirous of, is put in the locative. So that's the kamesu, which is the locative plural. So vinaya, having put aside gedham, greed, for sensory pleasures. By the way, this vinaya hey, I've lost my iPad. I mean, lost the iPad connection. Oh, sorry, it had gone behind you. Here we are. Oh, come on. Here we are. Oh. It's the root ni, meaning to lead, and v with the separative prefix v, meaning away, to lead away, or also not to lead something away from, not to lead. It can mean both leading a person away from something or leading something away from you, making something depart from you. And that's why, and then we get the verbal noun vinaya. Now we know the vinaya as the monastic rules of conduct. The basic meaning of that word is that which guards you from wrongdoing. In other words, it leads you away. It leads you away from doing wrong, and it leads the wrong away from you. And upa, up to, Upanaya, we have Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditthiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko. Now, quite a lot of people have had a problem understanding what this Opanayiko, what its form, what it really means. So Upanaya means leading up to. You lead a person up to something. In Sanskrit now, and then we'll come to the Pali. In Sanskrit, you can make a derivative adjective out of it by vriddhi of the u and adding the ika ending. So by regular derivation, the noun upanaya becomes in Sanskrit aupanayika. There's vriddhi, that's the strength of the u to au. Aupanayika is exactly the same then in Pali, but with one difference, namely Pali does not have the diphthongal au sound. So something as an au in Sanskrit will become an o in Pali. And that's where we get the Opanayiko, the Dhammo Opanayiko. Now, in the Brahmanic tradition, sorry, I'll go back to saying, so the Upanaya, that which leads you up to something. You might say conducive, it gets you there. And the Opanayika is simply the adjectival form of it. Something that is conducive, that does lead you onwards. Now, there's a specific twist here, because in the Brahmanical tradition, the initiation ceremony, like the Roman Catholic confirmation and the Jewish bar mitzvah, in the old Brahmanical tradition, you had something broadly the same, about that same kind of age, around the age of 13 or 14 or so. You had what was called the Upanaya, where the child was led up to his guru. And that was like the confirmazione, like the confirmation ceremony, or the bar mitzvah ceremony, the Upanaya. And again, you can just, with the adjective from that, the same Upanayika. Now, we frequently encounter in Buddhism where the Buddha uses Brahmanical terms, but in a Buddhist context, where he says, not the Brahman, the true Brahman, the real Brahman is the one who does so and so. The true ablution, the true bathing is not bathing in the Ganges, but bathing in the Dhamma. So he's using these Brahmanical terms, but transposing them into Buddhism. The true Brahman, the true bathing. And I suspect here that there's a double meaning, a deliberate double meaning in the use of the word Opanayiko here. So the Dhamma is Opanayiko, it is conducive, it leads you to the goal, but equally the double meaning is that this Dhamma, the hearing of the Dhamma, is the true initiation, not the mere ritual performed by the Brahmins, but this is the true initiation, the true Upanaya is hearing the Dhamma. So again, from that, this little rabbit hole from that same root, ni. Well, okay, so vinaya then, so the vi, separative prefix vi, meaning away. So having put away, having abandoned, discarded, you say, gedam, greed, kamesu, for sensory pleasures, nahi jatu gambhasayam punaretiti. The word jatu, incidentally, oops, I think my alignments, oops. Sorry, I'm mucking this up. Something's gone funny with my annotations here. Sorry about that. No, I'll stop trying it now. Anyway, I'll redo that. Nahi jatu kapasayam punaretiti. Jatu is nothing to do with jati, meaning a birth. It's just an emphatic particle. I'm not sure what the etymology is. You also see it in Sanskrit, but it's just an emphatic part. That one will definitely do or not do what? Punar eti. Punar again, cognate with the Greek word palin, meaning against, as in again, as in palindrome, palingenesis. Punar palin is the same word. He will not again go, eti, go, to Gabhasayam. Gabha is in Sanskrit, Garbha means the womb. And you have and Garbha, by course, by regular phonetic mutation, becomes Gabha in Pali. You have the Tathagata Garbha in the Mahayana, the womb of the Tathagatas. Here it's used in more of a, well, it is used in a physical sense. Mariano.
Can I ask in Ksiti Garba, what is the Ksiti then? The Bodhisattva, one of the four great Bodhisattva. You got Manjushri, you got Valokiteshvara, Samantabhadra, and then Ksiti Garba. What does Ksiti mean?
Yeah, it should only mean an abode. Yeah, from the root kshi, the kshiti, an abode or dwelling habitation.
Okay.
The kshiti,
Earth, yeah, I've seen Earth there.
So I actually I haven't really dived into it much, but when I see that word, I'm slightly puzzled as to why he's got that name, kshiti. The abode habitation. It's from that same root kshi, by the way, that we have kshema, which in Pali becomes kema. Ayakema, yes. And we have, and kema is an abode or a place of rest, but it with the specialized meaning of where you are safe. Anuttaram yoga kemam. So yoga in the sense meaning exertion, applying as a yoga. So the yoga kema is the rest from your exertion. In other words, you've been through katankaraniyam, done is what had to be done. You now have your yoga kemam, your kema from your yoga. In fact, in Greek, in modern Greek, the word ktima means property that you own, like a plot of land that you own. So it is retained that same meaning even into modern Greek. But what Kshitigarbha really means, I don't actually know what lies behind the real meaning of that name.
Yeah, it is odd because it is the one who goes down to hell to rescue the little devils as well, and as well as protector of children, and what is, well, never mind. It is for another day.
No, that's an interesting one. It is for another. Anyway, you've got me thinking about it now, Mariano.
Oh, thank you.
Try and work out what it really means. Siyam, it means a resting place. It's actually from the root shi, meaning to lie down or to rest. Shi, and in Sanskrit, present tense, sheti, he lies down, Pali, seti. Now, one really critical bit of etymology I've often mentioned, I'll say it again for those who don't remember or who are new, that where you have, I'm looking particularly at you, Judy, you may be hearing this for the first time from me. The others have heard it before. That wherever you have a sh, not wherever, but in many cases where you have a sh in Sanskrit, that's the one that we write with this S with a little slash over. In Devanagari, it's that, the sh. That very frequently turns up in Greek and Latin as a k sound. One of my favorite examples is the root nash in the Vedic root nash, and it makes meaning to give me active and passive, to perish or to destroy, to hurt. And what happens in Latin, this nash root becomes knock in Latin. Nocere, is it nocere or nocere? I forget which.
In Italian, it is nuocere.
Nuocere, okay. Okay, yeah. Nuocere. It's nuocere, it's either nocere or necere, I forget which. Anyway, it doesn't matter for these purposes. I forget which conjugation it is. But the root knock means to harm. So if you are innocens, which in English becomes innocent, innocente, means you have not harmed, you have not done anything wrong. You can be noxious, there is a noxious substance. You have a noxious person, a noxious substance means something that causes harm. That's from nasha. Now this root she, and you can make a place of rest either in Shaya and Pali Saya. You can also make a Shema. So our word cemetery, you see, you get these wonderful things turning up unexpectedly. So the cemetery, in fact, the Greek root for to sleep is kim. Kimame, I am asleep. So it means the place of sleeping, the place of rest. So from that same root. So now look back to Sayam. It's not just a random string of noises. We're using now the place of rest. So the cemetery in the womb, your place of rest in the womb, coming to a place of rest. In other words, your gestation period, resting in the womb before you're born again. So na punar eti does not go again, and remember the hi and the jatu are just emphatics. So, verily indeed, that person will not again go to the resting place of a womb. In other words, will not have a human rebirth. So before we recite it, are there any more comments or queries arising out of it?
James,
please, Roger, please.
I mean, I hope this isn't too off the point, but when you were talking about adjectives and nouns, the story of Yasa in the Vinaya Pitaka, he became an arahant, as you know, and 54.
So the story of
Yasa.
Yasa. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and 54 of his friends as well. Someone told me recently that means famous.
Ah, yeah.
Famous one.
Yeah. In Sanskrit, yashas, and in Pali it would become yaso.
Could we see the iPad, please?
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry, my mistake. So there's a, it means oops, it means more the idea of glory and fame, specifically the glory and fame that one might have from one's high moral qualities. What was the name of the Buddha's mother?
Oh gosh.
I think she had a Yeshus in her name. Goodness me, here we are. We can't remember the name of the Buddha's mother.
It's not Yashodhara.
Wasn't it Gautami?
Yasodhara. Yasodhara. Was it?
Yes.
Thank you, Srinimala. Okay. Yasodhara.
Yeah, Yasodhara.
That means the holder, the possessor of yasa. So the idea is it means glory. But more in a moral sense. I'll just turn up, just let you have Manu Williams so we can. Yeah, so Yeshas, then this is now the Manu Williams Sanskrit. Beautiful appearance, then honor, glory, fame, renown. So fame and renown is one of the things that's embodied within that word.
It was put to me, James, that this might be a reason why he had so many friends. It doesn't explain how they all became arahants so quickly, but it would explain why he had so many friends.
Yeah, actually, that's odd because you would tend to think slightly the opposite, wouldn't you? But if you can hang on to somebody as a friend simply because he's well known and famous, that's not generally regarded as a particularly noble quality. Just to hang around the rich and famous, celebrity stalking. But Yesha is okay. Oh, I see how Yesha, as best I recall, I've only ever seen it used as a noun in Sanskrit and Pali, but I see from Manu Williams, it's MFN, it's masculine, feminine, neuter, is a sign that it can be used as an adjective as well. So it can be an adjective and a noun. As best I recall, I think in Pali, I think it's a noun only, but let's discover when I'm right or wrong about that. Just line. They have just within the last day or two tweaked the online edition of the Pali Text Society Dictionary, just within the last day or two. The reason I know that is that now the head words they've put in italics, which weren't in italics before. And there's now a new thing at the beginning when you click on it to call it up. Please wait, this is a very large file. This is new. It's only there within the last couple of days. So anyway, let's go back to, we've got Yaso and Yasanuta.
Yaso.
Yeah, because in Sanskrit it's actually Yashas. It's one of the nouns where the stem ends in an as. Mariano, are you staying with us? I hope you are, because you got it's your Marsden Hospital Day, isn't it?
I got to go.
Oh. So I'm not booting you out. I was
hoping
you would stay. But...
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mariano, it's you. Yeah, there's a class of nouns in Sanskrit that end in as, and that is the stem. And the well-known one is namaste, namas to thee, namaste. It's a consonantal declension. So the instrumental would be namasa, for example, yasasa. we chant sometimes Sirasa Namami. Namami, I pay homage. Siras, the head, Sirasa, with the head. If you Sirasa Namami, means you're bowing right down so that your head touches the ground. Namami Sirasa, with the head. In Pali, sometimes it follows the A declension, and sometimes it follows the spelling errors crept into the PTA stuff, and sometimes it follows the consonantal declension. I won't go into that now. That's an aspect of grammar. In fact, I was thinking from time to time, I'll give you little grammar assignments, and one of the first ones was to make sure that you're all familiar with the consonantal declension in Sanskrit and Pali. It's actually quite simple if you're led through it in the right way. And I can't promise that it will be simple, but I do promise you that I am making it my business to do my very best to guide you through it, the consonantal declension in Sanskrit and its relationship with the consonantal declension in Pali, to make it as simple as possible. That's kind of on the agenda for the near future. So yes, there we are. So as far as I can see, looking here, I think it seems to be simply a noun in Pali, and it makes its adjective by the addition of a vin. So yashasvin in Sanskrit becomes yasasin in Pali, and there's another yasasimant, double yashasvinmant, yasasimant. So there we are. It's a noun and an adjective in Sanskrit. They're much more commonly used as a noun. And as far as I can see, yashas, yaso in Pali is a noun only, and it makes its adjectives with yasasin. Yasasin, by the way, is the more common form.
So what would be the good translation of the proper name then, Yasa? Something like renowned one or famous one?
Roger, I really hate being asked. Okay, no, I'll take it like a man. What is the correct translation? There are several translations, all of which would give you part of the story. So glory, fame, renown, is all of those things rolled into one.
Thank you.
I'm certainly not going to commit myself saying that is the best translation. In fact, I'll be with you in a second, Simon. Just recently, in a live Pali class I do in Manchester, I was explaining the meaning of appamado, non-pamada, often translated as heedlessness. I'm explaining what lay behind the word, the root mud, which, the exuberant joy rushing after what you want, the exact opposite of self-possessed mindfulness. There's pramada, pamada in Pali, apramada in Sanskrit, apamada in Pali. All these things, the idea of not rushing forth, not getting carried away, sometimes translated as heedlessness, heedlessness, negligence, non-negligence. And at the end of that explanation that went on a lot longer than this one of the students said, okay, well, what's the English translation for it then? That's exactly the point I'm making. There's no one word that covers it. What we're doing with me is not translating, we're kind of leading you into the inner life. Your question was a lot more valid than hers, though, Roger. So yes, so I think it's just glory, fame, renown, all of those things, and generally with it's got an applaudatory moral tone to it. There's a positive moral tone to it.
Thank you.
And the dhara there, the final a is simply because it's feminine. It's the name of the mother. Stem form dhara. It's from the same root as the word dharma. It's from the word dri, meaning to hold or to be firm. The idea is firmness and holding. For example, you get duty is light, which in Pali becomes juti. And an N gets slipped in there. So jutindharo could be jutidharo or jutindharo is the bearer of light. In fact, there's an Amaravati monk called Jutindharo, who then actually went to Woolwich in Devon, and you know, his junior monks there were quite pleased when I said, well, actually the word means Lucifer, Jutindharo, Lucifer, carrier, bearer of light. Incidentally, the when you have a the in Sanskrit and Vedic, it often turns up as an F in Latin. So dri and the Latin ferre to bear, Lucifer, the fur is etymologically the same as the dara. In fact, the word firm as in solid, terra firma, solid ground, that it's firmus in Latin and dharma in Sanskrit are etymologically the same word, the dharma, that which is known and firm and held and solid. Right, so was there any more arising out of this? We'll have Simon. Sorry, I said I'd come back to you. I forgot.
It's just a question for Roger, really. Roger, did you ask this question online elsewhere quite recently?
I did, yeah.
Araf Mitrananda.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I know who you are. Yeah.
Yeah. I was told by a monk, just in very simple terms, that meant famous, which was news to me. I haven't had a chance to really look up dictionaries and so on, but James has given a wonderful exposition on it.
Yeah, he's good at Pali. He's pretty good Pali scholar.
So who is this, Simon?
Roger has appeared on a site that I'm the admin for, and I just put two and two together and work because Mitrananda is some kind of links. I know you have a background in the Triratna, and I thought maybe it's the same question, and I knew I'd seen it somewhere. So it's about the Buddhist world linking up in different places.
Okay, right.
I can't remember the name of the monk actually who kindly replied. Can you, Simon?
So to say that yasha or yasa means famous, again with so many of the things, it's not incorrect, but it's partial. It means that, and with the additional elements of renown and glory. Right, so we're almost at one. Should we have just time for one recitation? Judy, you're new to this class. There's a kind of a general, actually a rule, but there's a general thing we do here, is that if you have your video switched on so I can see you, that is an implied signal to me that you are volunteering to be called upon to recite. Now, with your chanting experience going back many years, do you care to do a recitation, either ordinary reciting or chanting, whichever way you like, of this verse? No obligation, you don't have to.
I can have a go.
Please do.
Well, these two lines?
Just these two lines, beginning with Ditincha Anupagamma.
Ditincha Anupagamma Silawa Dasanena Sampano. Kamesu Vinaya Gedam Nahi Jatugaba Sayam Puna Etiti.
Right. Now I notice, can you pronounce this word again?
Vinaya?
Right. I noticed the first time round you said Vinaya.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
rule.
no, in fact,
Vinaya.
many Thais, when you get the aya ending, many Thais pronounce it as an aya,
Oh, okay.
even though in writing it's an aya. So when you said that, I was wondering whether, well, evidently it is, that the chanting you have done, much of it may have been from in the Thai tradition, from a Thai background.
Yeah, mostly at Chithurst, yeah.
Okay, right. So that was some, you would find some of them would be saying Vinaya.
Okay.
Mm. So it's certainly not wrong to do it that way if you are following the Thai tradition.
Okay.
What I generally do here, I do my best to. We don't know exactly how the Buddha pronounced Pali.
Mm.
However, we've got a much better idea than with most languages from so long ago. And the reason we have a very good idea is that we know that Pali is very, very close to Vedic, the early form of Sanskrit. And we have also fairly strong evidence about how Vedic was pronounced from two sources. First of all, is the grammar of Panini, who wrote about 500, about the time of the Buddha. Panini, the grammarian, who was the first person, I think, in the history of linguistics in the entire world to actually, in his grammar, describe how the vocal organs are positioned for certain sounds, which is really very, very useful indeed. The first person ever to do that. And the other thing is that you can just go onto the internet, and it's all over the place. You can call up YouTubes of Brahmins chanting the Vedas. And the interesting thing is that whether these Brahmins, anywhere from Kashmir to Tamil Nadu and from Maharashtra to Bengal, people who've grown up in centuries and centuries, millennia even, without any contact with each other, now will all be chanting it in virtually exactly the same way. Now, that is very strong evidence that that is, if we get people now at this distance in time all doing it the same way, that's very strong evidence that there's been a carefully preserved tradition of how it's done. And that the way they chant is very close to the way modern Hindi is pronounced. So I do my best as a non-native, I do speak Hindi, but I do my best as a non-native speaker of Hindi to pronounce Pali here, more or less as it is pronounced in the Ganges Valley now, which is likely to be very close to the way it was pronounced in the time of the Buddha. And they certainly would say Vinaya, not Vinaya, Vinaya.
Right.
However, I'm not going to say that Vinaya is wrong, provided you just make a line. That's how the Thais do it, and I won't stop them.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And also this word, can you just pronounce this half line again? Say this half line, the one that I've highlighted on screen.
Kamesu Vinaya Gedam.
Okay, right. Now,
Gedang.
Gedam.
Gedang, NG ending, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, here, because again, most of the Thais will pronounce it as the Gedang, but specific is here, it's followed by an N. So certainly in northern India, they pronounce it Gedhanna. The Thais might pronounce it Gedhanna. Srinimala. In Sri Lanka, how do you pronounce Kamesu Vinaya Gedham Nahijatu Gabbaseyam Nariti? Just you say that line.
Kamesu Vinaya Gedam. Gedam, not M, Gedam.
Okay, so you pronounce more of Gedam with an M sound.
No, Gedam, N sound. It comes N sound.
An N sound, Gedhan Nahijatu. Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's how it would have been. That's how also it would be pronounced in Vedic. Okay, thanks. Just the sound wasn't coming through terribly clearly. Thanks for that, Shriya Nimala. So I'm glad to see Shriya Nimala were from her Sri Lankan tradition. pronounces it very likely in the same way that the Buddha would have pronounced it. Another point, Judy, is that you actually when you pronounce things, you shorten that to an because we've got the esu ending, and the phonetics of English would tend to lead a native English speaker to say kamesu. But remember, if it's long in Pali, it remains long, so it has to be kamesu, long, short, kamesu.
Kamesu.
Exactly. You particularly notice that if you're chanting in unison, and if you do a vowel, if you do a long vowel, if you pronounce it short, you become one beat out of step with everyone else.
Yes.
For example, in the precepts,
Yeah.
it's kame. Oh, exactly the same word. Kamesu michachara veramani sikapadam samadhyami. A lot of people, English people, because of the phonetics of English, instead of michachara, will tend to say michachara, because it would be more natural in the phonetics of English to do that. But that's actually, well, that is wrong. Not only is it wrong, but you soon find out if you're chanting with people who do pronounce it correctly that you're suddenly one beat out of step, and you have to you get one syllable ahead of them because you pronounced it short. So it's actually chanting is attentively chanting is a very good way to get these longs and shorts right, and the double letters and so on. Okay, so we've gone over one, so thank you very much for joining. So Judy, I remind you, if you want to be on the mailing list, just drop me an email. I'll add you to the mailing list, no obligation at all. And wonderful, so I will see some of you a little bit later for the Sanskrit, and the rest of you hopefully in a week's time.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much to all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.